Having kicked some mud off his boots, the labourer, Martin Crosby, said to his wife, "Dinner ready?" Emma Crosby was wringing out some clothes. Her face was shiny with the steam and the heat of the day. She answered petulantly, "No, it isn't. You'll have to wait another 10 minutes. The taters aren't cooked. I've enough to do this morning, I can tell you, what with the washing and Lizzie screaming with her teeth and the boiler going wrong. Ugh, there's always something." Martin knew there was no appeal against delay. He'd been married 4 years. He knew his wife's temper and mode of life sufficiently well. He went out into the garden and lighted his pipe. The fowls clucked round his feet, and he kicked them away. He too was hungry. However, there would be food of a sort in time. Some greasy pudding and potatoes boiled to a liquid mash. A piece of cheese, perhaps. Well, there it was. When you work in the open air all day, you can eat anything. The sun was pleasant on his face, the shag pungent and comforting. If only old Emma weren't such a muddler. A good enough piece of goods when at her best, but always in a muddle, always behind time, no management, and then resentful because things went wrong. Lizzie, 7 months old and 2 teeth through already, and another coming. A lovely child, the spitting image of what her mother must have been. Next time it would be a boy. Life wasn't so bad, really. The gate clicked, and the tall figure of Ambrose Baines appeared. He was dressed in a corduroy coat and knickers, stout brown gaiters and square thick boots. Tucked under his arm was a gun, with its 2 barrels pointed at the ground. He was the gamekeeper to Sir Septimus Letter. He stood just inside the gate and called out, "Morning, Martin." Martin replied, "Morning. I was just passing. The missus says you can have a cooking or so of runner beans if you want 'em. We got more than enough, and I hear as yours is blighty." "Oh, aye, thank ye. Middling hot today. Aye, terrible hot. When'll you be coming? I'll stroll over now. There's nowt to do. I'm waiting dinner. I expects it'll be a half-hour or so. You know what Emma is." He went inside and fetched a basket. He said nothing to his wife, but rejoined Baines in the road. They strolled through the cutting and got into the back of the gamekeeper's garden just inside the wood. Martin went along the row and filled his basket. Baines left him and went into his cottage. He could hear Mrs. Baines singing and washing up. Of course, they had had their dinner. It would be like that. Mrs. Baines was a marvel. On 1 or 2 occasions Martin had entered their cottage. Everything was spick and span and done on time. The 2 children always seemed to be clean and quiet. There were pretty pink curtains and framed oleographs. Mrs. Baines could cook, and she led the hymns at church, so they said. Even the garden was neat and trim and fruitful. Of course, their runner beans would be prolific, while his failed. Mrs. Baines appeared at the door and called out, "Morning, Mr. Crosby." He replied gruffly, "Morning, Mrs. Baines." "Middling hot." "Aye, terrible hot." She was not what you would call a pretty, attractive woman, but she was natty, competent, irrepressibly cheerful. She would make a shilling go as far as Emma would a pound. The cottage had 5 rooms, all in a good state of repair. The roof had been newly thatched. All this was done for him, of course, by his employer. He paid no rent. Martin had to pay 5 shillings a week, and then the roof leaked, and the boiler never worked properly. But perhaps that was Emma's fault. He picked up his basket and strolled toward the outer gate. As he did so, he heard the 2 children laughing, and Baines' voice joining in. "Some people do have luck," Martin murmured, and went back to his wife.